You're listening to the Crew Book Club podcast, the show that challenges you to change your mindset through hearing about dope books. Thanks for hanging with the crew to get advice, ask questions, and gain knowledge with me, your host, Sade Hill. What up, crew? What's good? Let's get into another episode of the Crew Book Club podcast. Whoop, whoop. I am having such an amazing time coming on here and doing this pod. Like, you guys do not understand. I am completely falling in love with this. Just when I'm going out into my community and I'm networking and I'm meeting people and they're like, oh my gosh, we're really enjoying your content to the podcast. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for sharing and showing me love when you do see something new that you like and giving me feedback. I love feedback. This is how I get better for you, and you should welcome feedback too. Okay, we all need feedback in life, and take that as a good thing to grow and elevate. Like, you know in your soul and spirit when someone is giving you feedback out of love. And I also feel like when people are detailed in their feedback, that means they're really paying attention to what you're doing. So feedback is good. Welcome it with grace, okay? And if you don't agree, just smile and shake your head. Just because someone's giving you feedback doesn't necessarily mean you got to take it. Okay, but definitely welcome it. All right, so how you all feeling today? I'm recording right now. It's St. Patty's Day, and if you look at the video, I am not wearing green, but green is always in the background. There's a plant behind me. I did have some events, networking events earlier for real estate, and I did wear my green. Okay, so can't pinch me. But I'm feeling good today. Energy is super high, especially surrounding myself with the tribe that I have. The books that I'm reading and things of that nature really helps keeps my energy going. I hope you're feeling good. And if you're not, you know, that's okay. Feel that feel, girl. And hopefully listening to this podcast will have you like, yes, I'm feeling it today. Girl, Sade switch my mood up. This book by Sarah Jakes Roberts, Woman Evovle, that gave me some motivation. I'm ready to go. Let's get into the scripture read. Who gonna check me, boo? And God is always checking us. Okay? Share your Who Got Checked moments with the Crew Book Club on our Instagram, YouTube, and on the review. Wherever you can communicate with me, I'm here. You can also send an email to thecrewbookclub@gmail.com. Okay? You know, as a parent and a former kid, we know how hard it is to get a kid to sit still, right? Typically, when we ask our kids to sit still, it's to get them focused because we know we have information we need them to get that's important. It's like, hey, I need you to sit still and pay attention. And you sitting still makes me know that you're receiving what I'm trying to give you, right? Now, as adults, I feel like that same thing, that sitting still thing we struggle with. And I know that's why it's so important to sit still when God is trying to communicate with you. That goes back from my challenge last week, intentionally praying. And when you intentionally pray and communicate with God, you have to be sitting still to do that, to allow him to communicate, being in his presence, right? And so I was reconfirmed when I opened up the Believes Bigger journal, the devotional journal by Marshawn Evan Daniels. On day 61, it's called, which is so funny, Intentionally Incubation. And the scripture was Psalms 46:10, and it reads, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." And the key points from the passage she wrote for me was, that's why God issues stillness as a command and not a request. Just as a mother speaks with both protection and passion to her offspring, seeking to keep him or her out of harm's way, God does the same thing to us. To be still requires us to be intentional. Stillness is a success strategy, one that prepares us to receive the majestic and to be an usherer of miracles. Come on with a whole word. Talk to me nice. Listen, You see what I'm saying? Like, sitting still can be tough, but that same thought of sitting still and being like a child when your parent was trying to, what she say? Speak to you for both protection and passion for you. That's the same thing God is trying to do to us. So I'm asking you, sis, to sit still. Let God speak to you. Ask yourself this as the prompt question is in the journal. It says, how has God been nudging you to slow down? How has this been a challenge for you? Oh, it's been a challenge for me. A lot of times in my business, I can get super busy, and my intent this year was to be like, no matter what, I'm reading my Bible every day. Whether it's a passage, I'm going to intentionally spend time with God so I know how to be still and listen to him, and because I know he's trying to protect me. So that was the who gonna check me, boo? God is always checking me. And sis, I hope he is checking you too. All right? We love a good chizak. All right. Now, this week we have some crew love. Hey, I love crew love. Like I said, I love feedback. I love the reviews. I love reading them. I know a lot of you text me because you guys, the people who know me, but please, even if you know me, go to Apple, wherever you can leave a review about the podcast, please do. But it really helps if it's on the Apple podcast, because you could do a written review, because I love to read them and share them on the podcast. I think on Spotify, you could just do all stars. 5 stars, okay? Because I'm going to continue to give y'all guys 5-star content. So, listen, this review comes from Chicago 81, and the title is Yes, Books. I love this podcast. This podcast is definitely a vibe. If you love books or just simply love positivity, you are in the right place. Keep doing your thing. Yes, thank you so much, Chicago 81. This type of feedback keeps me motivated. It keeps me going. And I absolutely love when you guys show me some crew love. Hey. As y'all know, as y'all continue to listen to me, I love to sing my own little tunes. I'm pretty sure y'all do the same thing. You ever like say something and you like a whole tune be behind it and you just want to jam? That's me. Anywho, thanks for sharing crew love. Continue to share crew love. I will definitely share on the pod, okay? Now, let's get into this book. Woo! Child. This book is giving me complete life. I'm loving it. This week we're diving into chapter 5, Work the Wait, and chapter 6, It'll Never Add Up. It will never add up. Ooh, girl. Don't we hate to wait? It's like, it's my money and I want it now. That's how I be feeling. But we have to remind ourselves timing is everything. But while we wait, might as well work it, okay? And as the great Missy Elliott would say, if it's worth it, let me work it. Hey. Okay, so let's get into our first chapter. Chapter 5 is Work the Wait. We get caught up in what looks like right now, but like stated in the book on page 76, your how is your now. Okay? It reads, on one hand, you know exactly what you're supposed to do, but you also have no clue how you're supposed to do it. You don't have to know every detail of your purpose or even what your purpose is in order to set your life up for purpose. She says, I want to stress how significant it is for you to come to a place where you trust who you are. Your inability to trust who you are will also show up in what you do. So good. Listen, if you don't think you are an eloquent, intelligent, savvy, or confident enough for the journey ahead of you, it will show up in how you perform. And when your performance doesn't stand out, it leaves very little or any room for promotion, connection, networking. It's a vicious cycle because from there, you won't volunteer to take new challenges, you won't push yourself beyond what is necessary, and you may even begin to sabotage opportunities because you don't trust yourself to live up to the standard you have in mind. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Listen. So you're probably asking yourself, well, how do I balance the real feelings of uncertainty? I'm glad you asked. The author helps us answer this question on page 77 through 88. She says, I'm not suggesting you don't get nervous or that you walk into a room with false arrogancy. What I'm saying is that when you walk into the space, you have to make a decision within yourself that no matter what happens, you will not allow the outcome to take away from who you are and all the hard work you've been doing. This hit me because I think on one of the episodes I kind of teared up about a deal falling through. And I had to realize, girl, you did everything you were supposed to do. You educated yourself. You educated your client. You did everything you were supposed to do. So I can continue to walk in confidence because no matter the outcome, I know I did the hard work. Okay? Moving on. It says, when I take a few deep breaths and remind myself when I'm authentically who God has called me to be, so much so that I cannot fail, it eases the tension. I may still have nerves, but I remind myself of who I am. Listen, that is power. That is some power. When you come to a place where you're confident that your mistakes don't define you, that a person can outshine you, and that failure is a blessing in disguise, you bring a level of confidence and fearlessness that sets you apart no matter what room you step in. Girl, that was so apparent to my life because I do have to be confident. Like, think about it. Even when you're going on an interview, no one's going to hire you if you lack in confidence. They would rather take the person who's confident than the person who, I don't know. It's like, no, I know I can provide this. I know I can do this. And I know we have a hard time at tooting our own horn, especially my ladies. We definitely have a hard time doing that, but it's so apparent that you're confident in yourself enough to be able to be like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Because then you know your value. That's another thing. So you got to learn how to trust yourself. So that really hit for me, and I hope that hits for you. And that can hit for anybody, the entrepreneur, the person you're trying to grow in your business. Like, this works. That's why I love this book too. It's for everybody. So appreciate that. Now listen, this is a very important part people tend to forget about or get laxy-daisy on, which is on page 78 as well. It says, you have to be even more intentional about doing your homework by understanding your audience and what matters to them. You want to know that you've done everything you know to do when you walk into the room. When you've done your homework, you're less afraid of taking a pop quiz. You can avoid failing in life, but you can do everything within your power to prepare for it. This is where people drop the ball. When you know you got a job interview, research the company. Let me tell you, when I was working in corporate before, I typically would get a job because I would mention what the company is probably doing in the community, what the numbers were for the company, how I can help the numbers grow based off of the research that I found, how my values align with the company. Do your research before you go to an interview. When I'm going to meet with buyers or potential sellers, I make sure that I'm looking up the neighborhood. I conversate and ask the right questions. Sometimes I even go on their social media and see what they're into, so to find a way to relate to them and how I can bring value to their lives. Like, you guys, we got to do the homework because that's going to help us better walk into confidence, okay? When we have that meeting, when we're trying to propose something to someone, you got to know your stuff and you got to do your homework. So research is very important, and we tend to forget about that. So definitely practice not being so laxy-daisy and putting some energy into your homework, okay? So, I think we all struggled or still struggle with what our problems are, what we offer the world. And when we do discover our purpose or think we discover what our purpose is, we have this expectation like, okay, girl, I got to know what my purpose is. Let's wake up tomorrow morning and be successful tomorrow. Like, no. A side note, I I stopped measuring my success on $1 and started measuring my success on my peace. I slowly am realizing and practicing my peace is worth more, because there's people here that are multimillionaires and don't have no peace. Peace is priceless, okay? That's just how I feel about it. Everybody's success is different, but peace is my sign of success. Okay, let's get back into it. I loved how the author believes that purpose happens in steps, because it does. And the steps that she put out was agree, protect, and nurture, which starts on page 79. I'm going to give you some highlights on what those were. To agree, this is where you must come into agreement that your existence is seeds. You are not random. How you start is not an indication on how you will finish, okay? It's acknowledging that you're here to become more and more like God, like what God had in mind. More and more. This means it ain't going to stop, okay? More and more. All right, we got to keep going. It's going to be more and more times where you just have to agree. And where you're at does not indicate how you finish, okay? The second one was protect, the next step. Because you aren't exactly sure who you are becoming, you must make sure to protect your environment from any habit, friendship, relationship, or opportunity that could stunt your growth. Listen. You are the only person responsible for making sure you are vigilant and protecting the seed. You are in God's mind. I love how she put that. You are responsible for that. Nobody else. Oh, when so-and-so come around, I get so agitated. Okay, don't go around so-and-so. Oh, when I watch this, okay, don't watch it. Like, if it puts you in a bad mood, you have the responsibility to be vigilant about protecting that seed, especially if you're vulnerable. Don't do or be around things that's going to stunt your growth, sis. The third one was nurture. When your fruit seed begins to take root, you have to consider how you can continue to act of nurturing it. You will know that something is nurturing your seed when it begins to cut through your fears and insecurities and begins to motivate and empower you. This may come from reading a book, like the one we're reading now, hearing a speech, listening to a song, connecting with someone you know, i.e., listening to the Crew Book Club podcast. If this hypes you up and gets you going and motivates you and brings positivity in your life, why wouldn't you continue to listen? Correct? And me personally, because I like to curate my tribe and the people that I'm around, I'm going to send them things that brings positivity in my life, because I want them to reap the benefits so we can continue to all grow together, because it takes a tribe. Okay? I think we touched point on that. Okay, so I really love that, okay? I want to end this chapter with a statement by the author, Mrs. Roberts, on page 89. And trust me, y'all, there's a lot more stuff that I didn't cover. These are just the keynotes that I felt was really important and what I can bring to you. And whatever I'm reading to you keynote-wise, I've experienced it or going through it personally, so I can relate to these things. And you might read it and find a whole heap of other things that you can connect with as well. So definitely check the book out. But on page 89 in the chapter, Work the Wait, it says, when you grow, there may be parts of you that begin to take a new form. Never apologize for that. When you force yourself to fit in a mold created by people who don't value your authenticity, you cheat on yourself and become faithful to an image you can't maintain. Woo! We be sitting around here changing and forming and becoming better and better. And then somebody might say something, oh, you acting different. You're darn right I'm acting different. You're darn right I'm changing. And if you can't accept that change, especially if I'm trying to be better, come on, man. I'm not going to cheat on myself. I love this. So that's how I wanted to end chapter 5. There's a lot more stuff, like I said. So definitely pick this book up and let me know what other key points that hit you or checked you. And also, I love to hear from you guys on how these books are helping you too. So let's get into chapter 6, which is titled Out. It'll Never Add Up. Okay, this chapter was surrounding the story of Jesus asking his disciples to use the little boy's lunch, the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish. And it starts in Luke chapter 9. I know it's in Luke. Okay, this story is off the premise of this chapter. It's a popular story preached and referenced too often, but I loved how the author used the perspective of the boy who gave up his lunch. On page 94, I'm going to switch over. It says, giving your little is easier when the giving is your idea. But what do you do when giving your little requires you to surrender to a business partner, lover, parent, a friend, thoughts, or ideas? I don't think there's any nakedness like that, like the one that comes when life makes you vulnerable to the actions of another person. Yet, because we are created to exist dependent on one another, there will be moments when you can't move forward unless you're willing to give your little to someone else. This boy is about to learn the value and the cost of partnership. Oh my goodness. We need people. No successful person is successful without a team. That's why I think it's so important to have a good tribe too. Because you can have it like, I think we discussed this in Fear's My Homeboy. No, I know we discussed this in Fear's My Homeboy. We talked about I have a tribe for real estate. I have a tribe as a mom entrepreneur tribe, a tribe where I can talk about God and be on that spiritual level and they understand that perspective as well. It's okay to have multiple tribes for things. Everybody's not going to fit the mold of one thing, but you need people at the end of the day. It reads here, partnership without vulnerability can't produce success. Vulnerability is the act of letting someone else see your little that doesn't seem like enough and then trusting that little bit to them. When the right person sees it, they will strategize with you on how to increase it. But too often, the wrong person sees it before the right person does. That experience teaches us to never show our little again. Okay? This would be perfectly fine if we weren't on a mission to continue to increase and flourish. But because we are, there comes a moment when the only way that we can find a way forward is if we're willing to partner with someone who proves themselves worthy of having access to our little. Whew. If you ask any of my friends, they will tell you everybody can access me because I'm very protective over my energy, my peace. I remember them saying, oh, Sade is savage about her peace. But I am, because I've put in too much work and I'm working too hard to cultivate who I am to have people disrupted. So I want to be able to be vulnerable and trust people with my little. Because you know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to increase and I'm trying to flourish. And I want the right people to have access to my little to do that. Yes, you have to curate. That's my word. I'm changing my word this year. My word is to curate. I want to curate my space. I want to curate my friendships. I just want to curate my life. Okay? This one too. Listen to this. No one has ever built anything alone. Even Jesus had disciples who helped him fulfill his mission on earth. Right? You know, Sarah J. Roberts, I really be feeling like she's sitting next to me. We just having a girl conversation when I'm reading this book. I absolutely love how she writes this book. Remember that, y'all. No one has ever built anything alone. Even Jesus had disciples who helped him fulfill God's mission on earth. Okay, so let's close this chapter by understanding that Jesus is the multiplier, as discussed on pages 108. It says, God said to be fruitful and multiply. He never said to be fruitful and add. When God does math, it never adds up because it's always about multiplication. That's the sweet spot of us as believers. It's not when we're operating in our own strength and wisdom. It's when we come to a place where we can combine our uncomfortable vulnerability with our under-resourced effort and lay it at Jesus' feet. When you give him something to work with, he gives you something worth the wait. Yes. Like, we have to do the work. You know what I'm saying? But while we're doing the work and while we're waiting for it, knowing that it'll never add up, but God will multiply that thing, I was like, yes. Snap, snap, twirl, all of that. I love that. Being in his presence is what is going to help catapult you in that relationship. So things can be clear and you have that discernment from him on how to move and what to do. Okay, let's get into the challenge of the week. The challenge of the week was inspired on page 88. And each chapter has these segments that she calls working it out. And this particular challenge on page 88 reads, it says, grab your journal and imagine yourself at the height of success. Don't be limited by certain industries, qualifications, or experience. This is your opportunity to dream. Running a fashion house, heading up on a Fortune 500 company, teaching at a school that's considered a student's total well-being, whatever it is, jot it down. And then think of these two questions. She wrote two, but I'm going to just give you the one that I really want us to focus on. The second one was, how are those skills showing up where you are now? It's naive to think these skills emerge overnight. They are muscles that must be exercised in your now so they can be strong for your future. Woo! So the challenge this week is to work your skills now so you can be ready for later, okay? Work your skills now so you can be ready for later. And I want you to dream big. Don't put a limitation where you want to be and what you want to do, okay? I want it to be so big. And if you're not sure, go back to last week's challenge and intentionally pray on what God wants you to do. And don't limit God. You can't limit him, okay? I want you to think big, do big, and really challenge yourself this week to start applying those skills for now so you can be ready and prepared for later, okay? Oh, that's a good challenge of the week. All right. So let's get into Ask Advice. What would the crew do? I've been loving these questions, you guys. Keep them coming. Listen, the question this week is, what's one thing you now know that you would tell your younger self? It's a lot I would tell my younger self. But the first thing that comes to mind is to do you, to put yourself first, to give yourself time to grow, and do not be a people pleaser. That's what I would tell my younger self, because my younger self made decisions based on pleasing other people. I made decisions to please my mom. I made decisions to please people I was dating. In a sense, I made decisions to please friends or to do things, just people pleasing. I would tell my younger self to do you, boo-boo. Be cool, do you, and everything gonna be all right. So yeah, that's what I would tell my younger self. What would you guys tell your younger self? That's a good thing to do in this moment. What would you tell your younger self? That was a really good Ask Advice question. All right. So quote of the week. You know, normally I would end this show with a nice short quote or two. But this week I wanted to end it with a quoted prayer from the author on page 110. Because this just really hit different, and I wanted to share this with you. It says, Heavenly Father, there is truly no one who understands humanity and divinity the way you do. You understand how fragile we feel in this scary world. You know where our fresh wounds are and the places we're hiding scars. Father, I ask that you give every woman reading this book, also this podcast, the strength to open herself to you. Open her eyes to how you see her greatness in her sorrow. Grant her courage to stand up in an area where she's tempted to fall. Attract to her teachers, friends, community, and love that force her to raise her head and trust again. Help her to be comfortable in her own skin so the best of her can multiply for your glory. Amen. This prayer hit so hard for me because reading it, I really felt like she was invested in us. You know what I'm saying? So that's the ending of this episode, the Crew Book Club, with our book, Woman Evovle. We're evolving, sis. You listening to this, you reading that book, curating your space and your friendships is you evolving. So let's continue to break up with our fears, revolutionize your life. Okay, Thanks for listening again to the Crew Book Club podcast. Holla at your girl next week for another episode, and I will see you all either on Instagram. You can connect with me there. You can also connect with me on YouTube, or you can email at thecrewbookclub@gmail.com. I'm here for you. Let's do it. Hey. Want to be a part of the crew? Hit that follow button so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, we would appreciate you showing crew love by rating the show on iTunes and Spotify. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share and tell a friend so your whole crew can be growing with you. Let me be the first to tell you, thank you and welcome to the crew.